Okay, and we're sitting like we're kind of like an awkward range here. How does it look on the camera there? Okay.
Maybe you should like sit forward a bit or not.
Like this?
I don't know.
No,
if I sit back, then I look fat. So.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to lose some weight.
Great. Should we talk about that?
Yeah. Yes.
No. Okay.
My rice diet.
Rice diet? Great. What's up, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with OLA here at Namm. And today I have Jeff Loomis, and one of my favorite guitar players of all time. Was playing in one of my favorite bands, Nevermore. Now plays an arch enemy. What's up?
What's up,
I'm
man?
so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to see you too. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's this is like when I knew I was going to Namm and like, okay, finally I can, catch up with some real artists and not the shitty Swedish ones. I was like, okay, who first? Jeff Loomis, because I mean I said it in a lot of videos. I'm such a fan.
Thank you.
And back in the day when first album I heard was Dead Heart in Dead World, and I sat religiously and tried to transcribe the whole album for the internet, and I did. And some guy in text, in text format, because you didn't have the tablet or whatever.
Right, yep.
And I was so proud, made a website and all, goddamn tabs. That was the name of the site.
That's
I made
so
the site,
cool.
uploaded the full album, and someone took the tabs in text format, just erased my name, put in his own, and now they're out there in another name.
Who's that?
A great little story for you.
I want that clown to come ahead and tell us who he is or she.
Yeah, exactly. So occasionally you can find those tableter out there.
That's cool, man.
But it's with another name.
Yeah.
It's a great way to pay credit.
Thank you for doing that. That's super awesome.
I
I actually need those because I don't remember how to play any of those songs. So
that's exactly what it is. I mean, back in the day, that's always been kind of like the way for me to push myself forward in guitar playing. It's like learning other people's songs.
Yeah.
And just like really getting into it, because I've never been the guy that practices
Right.
a lot.
Yeah.
I like to progress while playing music I enjoy, because otherwise I grow bored. How was it when you started? Did you practice like 8 hours a day, or?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'd call it practicing. I think that I just enjoyed playing. You know what I mean? And I think there's a difference. When you're practicing something, you're trying to figure out a certain technique or a picking method or something like that, and you're focusing really hard, which I did a lot of that as well. But I just enjoyed the instrument so much, and I think that it's well written that, I came from a family with a lot of musical influence as well. My dad had a huge record collection, so I was always exposed to many different styles of music, classical, jazz, 70s music, 80s music. But I remember when my dad played me like Queen albums and Van Halen records, that's when I started to hear the guitar, and I really wanted to get better. So I would just listen and listen and listen and try to replicate the player, like as you're kind of describing.
Yeah.
And, I'd look at the clock and my mom would be knocking on the door, like 8-9 hours would have just flown by.
Right.
And I think when you're having that much fun at something, it's just, it doesn't really become practice. It just becomes a love of something that you totally enjoy.
Yes.
And for me, that's what guitar still is, I still play because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It brings me happiness. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now you completely threw me off, but who was your first hero? Was it Eddie Van Halen or?
No, my first real hero was Brian May, because of all those insane harmonies that he was doing. I just could never figure out what was going on. And of course, back in those days, and in the ancient days of me, playing, there was not many YouTube videos for us to look at and stuff like that, like there is now. But the overall sound is something that really attracted me. But then I became more influenced with like Eddie and Randy Rhoads. And then, of course, the whole, 1980s shrapnel era with all those killer guitar players like Paul Gilbert and Marty Friedman and Jason Becker and Tony McAlpine. Yeah. Those were players that I just my jaw dropped, you know. I had to be like that, you know. And I wouldn't say I necessarily was ripping off licks, but I was just kind of feeding all this information in from what I was hearing, because I was blessed with a pretty good ear, you know. I could easily pick up things. I remember when I first started playing, I'd have a classical guitar in the living room, and there would be a commercial on TV with a jingle or something like that. And then I would just quickly play the jingle. My dad would be like, "How did you do that?" You know. And I guess it was just some people have that and some people don't.
I mean, I think you can practice that. I mean,
you can as ear training,
exactly,
or something like that. But that to me was just a lot of fun and kind of like a challenge or something, you know. And that's kind of how it slowly progressed. I took a few lessons from some local guys in Wisconsin where I grew up, but mostly it was just, you know, I'm a pretty shy person. I still am to this day. It was just more of a thing where I stayed in my room and just kind of, you know, honed my skills that way and just kind of became the best I could be on my own.
Right. Yeah. That's cool. So when did you, like, Sanctuary, was the band before you joined, or you were part of Sanctuary for?
I was, yeah. Basically, to make a long story short, I grew up in Wisconsin in a small town called Menasha. And, you know, there wasn't a whole lot going on there. The closest city we'd have to go to see cool record shops and to see bands and stuff like that was Milwaukee.
Okay.
And that was about a 2-hour trip south of where I was from. And like I said, not a whole lot going on. The bands would come in and out. And that was back in like 89, 90, right when I finished high school. And I found out from a friend that Sanctuary was looking for a guitar player. And I somehow got a tape together and learned a couple of their songs and sent it to them, and they really loved it. And I literally flew out and got into that band, which lasted like 2 months, and then it broke up. Simply because I think Lenny, the other guitar player in the band, wanted to go for a different sound, because that was right when the whole grunge movement was starting in Seattle. And me and Worrell and Jim, we were kind of like, we want to stick to the heaviness and, you know, kind of go with our roots, so to speak. So that's kind of how that disengaged and got thrown apart. You know, there was a big old fight, and Worrell and Jim and I, we stuck together and we formed Nevermore. And we were an unsigned band for almost 3 years, playing small bars and stuff like that. And it's funny because, you know, at that time with the whole grunge movement, people were still coming to our shows, packing up bars, and people still loved metal at that time. So we ended up getting signed in '95 with Century Media, and I'm proud to say I'm still a Century Media artist.
Yes.
27 years later.
That's right.
It's crazy. That's kind of how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And the first album was Politics?
The first album was a combination of 2 demo tapes that we did.
Okay.
And it was done by the same producer, Neil Kernan, but with 2 different drummers. One drummer was Mark Arrington, who, believe it or not, was the drummer in Paul Allen's band. Paul Allen, the guy who just died from Microsoft. And also Van Williams played on the second half of it. So what we did was we combined those 2 demos into the first Nevermore, Nevermore self-titled album. And you'll kind of notice that some of the songs sound different sonically than others, and that's because they're simply 2 different demo tapes.
Right, okay.
And we did a small tour with that. Our first tour we did was with Blind Guardian in Europe. They took us out, and that was a lot of fun.
Solar artist, by the way, Marcus Siepen.
Hey, there you go.
Just plugging myself.
I know
that's
Marcus.
What I do.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
So continue.
Yeah, and then what was I going to say? So then after that, we got an American tour with Death on the Symbolic tour, and we had this like just piece of crap van that we rented that was completely empty. It was like a cargo van, you know. And we went to this thrift store down the street, and there was like 2 sofas just like this, and we were sitting there with nails, just nailing them into the van. So we had a place to sit, you know, with 2 small fans that we put in the corner of each, on each corner. And it took us 3 days to drive out to Boston for the first gig, and we were just so shot, and we ended up doing the first gig, and there you go. That's how Nevermore started.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and befriended Chuck, and that was a huge deal, you know.
Yeah, of course.
He's Chuck.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So When did you start with 7 strings? Was Dead Heart and Dead World the first?
That's correct. Yeah. It's kind of like we worked really hard, but something was still missing. It's like the first album wasn't really that heavy, so to speak. The second album, I don't know. Politics of Ecstasy is still a lot of people's favorites because it's just so thrash and so raw.
Well, it has a lot of iconic riffs, I think.
Yeah, it really does. I agree. But in 2000, Nevermore at that time was without a second guitar player. I was the only player in the band at that time. Nevermore is another one of those bands that had always had the ever-revolving door of guitar players, just because the soul of the band was really me and Laurel, I think, songwriting-wise. Yeah. And, whenever you get another guitar player in, of course they always want to be a part of it and write some songs, but I think Laurel and I had a certain, chemistry, so to speak, where we just worked really well with each other like that. So anyway, I just sat in this room for about 2 months in Queen Anne in Seattle and just composed Dead Heart and a Dead World with Laurel on a lot of the songs, and decided to use a 7th string because at that time I was kind of influenced by Meshuggah, actually, and this guy built me a 7th string, which is the most oddest looking 7th string you'd ever see. It had a bass string on the bottom.
Yes.
And it was like an 85 gauge with an actual bass tuning thing. And with EMG 81s, I believe, and going through Mesa Boogie Rectifier.
Yes.
And a Tube Screamer, which I think we talked about before.
I'm so obsessed with the guitar tone of this album.
It's really dirty and just nasty.
It's just like, it's still one of my favorite guitar tones. It's like if you just listen to today, it doesn't sound necessarily as modern and perfect as new albums, but it's just like the whole package is just like it's just a brute force.
You're right.
And
that's a good song too, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah, I like that.
But totally threw me off. That's why I've asked you a bunch of times about how you kind of found that sound, and but I think what really made it such a significant type of sound, I think it's probably because of the bass string.
I think so.
But
because the way it broke,
exactly,
the kind of
and it's such
the saturation of it.
It's such a thick sound.
It is.
And I tried, and the OD classic 820 overdrive, I think it was that I did for the video I made for a Nevermore tone video.
Yeah.
But I didn't really hear that change until you put that really thick string on there.
It's the truth, man, and it's so funny because when Andy and I initially, Andy Sneap, great guy, great friend, when we initially put that rig together, he brought that head over from England, and he had a really crazy way of miking cabs. He wanted to get that microphone as close to the cone as he could, so he'd literally take like the grill cloth off the Marshall. And the owner of the studio, Tony, out in Texas, was so angry. He's like, "What did you do to my cabinet?" But little did he know Andy could put it back exactly, which was a really cool thing. So he got that right up to the cone, and it literally it was an amazing tone just from sitting in front of it without it being mic'd up. So we knew we had something really cool. And a funny story is, once we had a lot of the initial tracks done, the place that we recorded this album was called Village. What was it called? Village something or other. I can't remember now. It's at the top of my head. There's a studio in Texas, and it was right on the Rio Grande.
Okay.
And we had some fans that kind of came over the border that knew we were recording from Mexico, and they came and visited us at the studio. And Andy played them part of the River Dragon.
Right.
So, he presses play. And this is back, when you had the mains, like huge speakers, which a lot of producers don't really use anymore, And, that intro comes in and here's this family of kids just sitting there. And when that opening riff kicked in, I swear to God, it blew them back like a foot. They're just like, whoa. It was unreal. It was just so sonically powerful.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, and we were just all laughing. Because I think Andy knew what was going to happen. He was just kind of watching, it blew them back like a foot. That was a really fun memory of that.
Yeah.
Knowing that we did something right,
Yes.
Because it was a very important album for us. Very important. We ended up touring almost 3 years on that album.
Yeah.
And that kind of put us on the map, so to speak, a little bit.
Yes.
And then continued to do pretty good after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So River Dragon is one of my favorite songs of all time because it's
Wow.
like you said, you hear it and it's like you're totally unprepared, and it's the sonical punch or whatever it is that really like kicks you into the song. It's so amazing. That's like, I would say probably the one song I've like biblically tried to like nail for, and I done like tabs and shit, and I done lessons like where I try to. Can you show? Maybe we should talk about your guitar first, so you can actually show.
Yeah,
because
I could just play the riff on that as well.
Exactly.
But
so it is Namm, and Jackson just announced you as being a new signature artist.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. This is a question that's been coming up constantly. Is that, you know, obviously I was a Schecter artist for many years, for like 13 or 14 years, and after I left Schecter, which was just a personal reason, you know, I love the guys at Schecter. They're great people, great friends, and all that stuff. I just kind of felt like I needed a change, and basically what that change for me is that I'm an avid collector of guitars. I've got a lot of Strats, I've got a lot of Gibson Les Pauls, just things that I wanted to play freely and openly. And I had a lot of Jacksons that I bought as well, that are personal instruments of mine. And that's when you noticed in the Instagram posts and Facebook posts and all that I started playing Jacksons live, just because I enjoyed the instrument.
Exactly.
So I didn't have a predetermined thing in my mind after I left Schecter that I was going to go to Jackson. I just wanted to be a free agent. It wasn't until I got an invite down there, and I wanted to see the facility as well in Corona, that I was really blown away. And to work with, you know, the likes of like Mike Shannon and stuff like that, legendary luthiers and craftsmen, that it was a no-brainer for me. That I really wanted to kind of be a part of the team, because even before Schecter, I was playing Jacksons and Charvels. I just always have loved the instrument. So with that being said, this is the new guitar. This is the new Jeff Loomis Kelly. You know, a lot of people are asking as well, Jeff, you're a 7-string guy, what's up? Well, you know, I play 6-string as well. Come on, you know, I'm in Arch Enemy. Arch Enemy is a 6-string band. And we will work on 7-string stuff in the future.
Oh, interesting.
But this guitar is pretty awesome. I mean, it's just a metal machine.
It is a metal machine.
You know, and the neck is really special because, you know, it was, you know, hand sanded to my specs in front of me. So it was literally being handed back and forth until I was from Mike Shannon.
So the actual shape.
He was just sitting there on the, you know, how's that? You know, and then they hand it back to me. I'm like, that's perfect. You know, so that took a little while.
That's a little dangerous. You're like, and he does a little too much. It's like,
dude, that
was too much. What do you do now?
That's where the excellency comes in. You know, he's a master at his craft. You know, so we did that for a while until it felt perfect, and then, you know, it's one-piece maple neck, ebony top, the shark fin inlays, the huge frets that I've always loved, stainless steel jumbo frets, you know, lighted dot inlays on the side for live performance. Yes. I'm blind as a bat. Yes. That really helps, you know.
Yeah, it does.
And
is it a regular scale or is it like 24 and a half?
It's 25.5. Yeah. And this is really cool, the neck heel adjustment, because, you know, we're always traveling to different places, going from cold to hot. You can do a quick, you know, truss adjustment on the fly, which is great, without taking the damn neck plate off, you know. My Seymour Duncan signature pickups, an ash body with a ash sandblasted top. Yes. The 1500 Floyd Rose, and a lot of people have been asking me about that, and that's just, why not the real Floyd Rose or whatever? And it's just simply because in my past experience using a real Floyd Rose with the screw-on arm, it tends to loosen and click. Yeah. And I don't like that. I just like a seamless thing. So with the 1500, this is just a push-in arm that tightens with an Allen wrench. Right. And it's perfect for me, you know. One volume, one toggle. The toggle's right there instead of the volume because I'm always switching in leads, you know, to get to the neck pickup. And that always stays on 10, really. I'm so gated live that it doesn't matter.
It's funny to see that when you start talking to artists. I was just about to say maybe we have an artist guitar here, but it's just like no tone, just volume, and volume out of the way. Yeah, just a switch. And that's
Get your tone out of your amp, you know, and your hands. You know,
it's a beautiful looking guitar.
Thank you very much. I'm really proud of it. You know, it's the Kelly shape not many players use Friedman, of course, and a few other players, but I kind of just wanted to bring it back because I just think it looks so great, just the lines and the way it looks. It's extremely metal looking. Yeah.
In that sense.
With the white binding, I think it just kind of makes it all come together.
Yeah.
So that in a nutshell is the new guitar, and that's going to be introduced this year. But yeah, the riff you're talking about.
I'm actually talking about the solo.
Oh, the solo.
Because that's what I was sitting down in my boy room.
Yeah,
I was actually an adult, but
yeah, the solo is just a diminished.
Yes, exactly. I know exactly how to play it. The thing is that when I did a cover.
Okay.
I played everything alternate.
Yeah, it's definitely not that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's where kind of like people get a little bit confused is because I've always done things on my own to make it easier for myself. Yeah. So you'll see a lot of combinations of just up and down stroke and economy in there as well too, from going to tough strings to another. But the funny way that the riff was actually composed was it was a timing thing. It was like where I had to fill up space,
Right.
Digga 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 jin.
Yeah.
What am I going to do there?
Exactly.
I knew I wanted to have 16th notes, but it was like, what's it going to be? So I just with it being diminished, it's always pretty guaranteed that it's going to be evil sounding with that.
Of course.
So the riff is just like. Like that, on repeat, basically. So it's just, something like that. I can't believe I can still play it.
It's probably because everyone's asking you about it all the time.
Maybe, yeah.
You have to kind of like revisit it all the time.
Yeah, it's a fun one to play, though. It's a lot of fun.
What type of guitar pick are you using there?
I've always used these picks. This is a 1.75 millimeter Dunlop Sharp. And we've got a few surprises coming out soon later with this pick. I can't really talk about it now, but it's going to be the same vibe with a couple of different changes.
Yes.
But I've always found that as far as pick attack goes, this is something that's important to my sound because you really get the clickiness and
it really digs in the string.
It does, and it's a difficult pick to use because if you go too far and you dig too far, you're going to run into problems because it's going to stick. So you really have to just use the tip. And the riff itself, I mean, when I see other people play it, there's some guys that do it really well, of course, but I think the biggest thing you see is just the tempo. Some people are always either behind it or ahead of it.
Right.
You just got to, just got to play along to the meter on it and just line it up.
Yeah.
And then it should sound proper.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw my video, but I was doing it in the kitchen.
Of course I did. Yeah.
I had to sit down to play that part.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's a tough one.
Okay, here it comes.
Yeah, you did a great job at it, though.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you played it very well. Yeah.
So you're also in Arch Enemy since a couple of years back.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate in my career, man. It's cool, because after Nevermore initially broke up, I was doing a lot of like guest solos and stuff, and just kind of keeping busy with my solo records. And I did a few tours with that. And then, of course, I met Keith.
Yes.
Keith Merrow. And then we formed a band called Conquering Dystopia, and there was a lot of success with that. And then, I was in China at the time with Keith, and I got an email from Michael Amott asking me if I'd be interested in picking up a 6-string again, is what his email said, which I thought was cool. And he had asked me before, like maybe 7 years ago to join the band, but I was still kind of involved with Nevermore at the time. I was really, I thought it was such a cool thing for him to ask me that, but I had to turn him down at that time. But the last time he asked me 4 years ago in 2014, I was like, you know what? This could be cool. I'm a fan of the band. Yeah. I like the tunes. I love Michael's playing, and I'm a good friend with him. I've been friends with him now for almost 20 years, maybe longer. So we get along great. It's a good package.
I remember when I saw the news that you were joining. It's like makes sense. I mean, it's like why wouldn't I think of that? It makes absolute perfect sense.
Thanks for saying that.
That was like such an obvious choice right there. So it totally made sense.
Yeah.
And we actually toured together. We
did
for a while. And I don't know if you remember, but when the Haunted was touring with Arch Enemy and Lacuna Coil, I think, right?
Yep.
And whenever we were sound checking and Jeff went into the venue, I was started playing Nevermore.
Yeah.
Like, just to make you feel awkward.
Dude,
just
no,
a little side note there.
It made me feel great, actually. Yeah, it just makes me feel appreciated that, there's obviously, lots of fans and people that still love the songs.
Right.
That makes me feel good.
Yes, I mean, I think even though you're in Arch Enemy now, I mean, the Nevermore name has really, it's affected so many people, and the 7th string. I mean, for the guy, they think now that you're playing 6th string, you are the 7th string guy. I mean, you are kind of like that whole Nevermore range of guitar playing. So it makes sense that.
I know what you mean.
for me, this is one of the bigger reasons why I played the 7th string even.
Wow.
So it's just to get that chunkiness. Then you discover that you suck, and you can play 6th string a little better, but you can just tune it down. It's a lot easier.
It was very odd for me to actually go back for a while, and when I first joined Arch Enemy, to play 6th string, and that alone, playing it in a C tuning.
Right.
Because it's just a whole different feel.
Yes.
I was playing in A440 with a drop, with Conquering Dystopia, and a half step down with Nevermore.
Yes.
So the whole general vibe was like much different and stuff like that. But I still enjoy playing. 6th string is electric guitar.
Yes.
To me. But I am working on a 3rd solo album right now, and it's going to be chock full of 7th string stuff.
So is it complete or is it?
It's not complete. No. I mean, my life has changed being in Arch Enemy with the tons of touring we do. We're one of the busiest bands out there.
Yes. You can see that.
Yeah, we're out there a lot. And when I get home, I'm pretty, I don't want to say shot, but I'm just tired, It's
need a vacation.
Being 47, 48 years old now, it takes a little bit out of you. So when I get home, I like to rest and get ready for the next tour. Yeah. But I have found time now. We do have a little bit of downtime now, and we're planning on going back to Japan in March. So I am going to complete the writing in the next 2 months for my next album.
Exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Who's drumming? Is it Anoop or?
I don't have a drummer. I do have a drummer picked out, but I don't know if he's going to be available. I have another guy in mind that I'd really like to use, and his name is Eloy.
Eloy?
The guy from Sepultura? Eloy Casagrande? Is that his name?
It's the current guy for Sepultura?
Yeah.
He's a fucking monster.
I know. He just, every time I see his videos...
It's like a pit bull.
I know. I got a chance to meet him when we just played South America a couple months back, and he's just the nicest guy, and I just didn't have the courage to ask him then. But if you're watching this...
Okay, let's make a petition for this. I mean, it has to happen. If you're watching and you know this guy, this drummer from Sepultura is fucking insane.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah.
Contact Jeff.
Please. Yeah.
Or you can contact me, I'll contact Jeff.
Yeah. You were really nice to me when we met each other, so here's my invite to you to drum on my new album, man.
We're going to make it happen. I feel like I need to help.
That would be great. Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's a monster.
He is. He's in some sort of way, he's intimidating.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that.
It's weird, dude, because, being a guitar player, you'd think that, I'm always watching guitarists. But I'm a drummer at heart. I started playing drums when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Which gave me, I think, a sense of like rhythm and stuff like that. My dad bought me a 3-piece Ludwig kit when I was just like 8 or 9 or something.
Okay.
I remember the kit so well because it was like an old jazz kit and it stunk like mildew.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, playing it, had headphones on, and my dad would flick the light switch on. That sounds great, man. Keep going. But drums just never really stuck. Yeah. It just kind of got boring, And he had an old classical guitar laying around. And that's how I kind of got started with guitar.
Did you try to just make you a drummer so he could have someone to play with?
Maybe. I don't know. I was just so shy at that age. It's like he wanted me to take lessons, and I just found guitar to be so much more interesting. It was more my vibe. But getting back to what I was saying, it's like you'd think I'd be watching guitarists all the time, which I still do. But man, I love watching a good drummer. It's just the most fascinating thing to me. Our drummer in Arch Enemy, Daniel, is phenomenal, as well. So it's like I just have admiration for that. It's cool. Yeah.
The drummer from Arch Enemy, Daniel, is brother with the drummer in The Haunted,
right?
Adrian Erlandson. So it's like it's kind of funny because they kind of compete.
I know. You know,
and they've done that for a lot of years. I mean, Adrian's been in Cradle of Filth, and a lot of Paradise Lost, and then
quite an eclectic list of bands.
A really good extensive list of bands. And then Daniel came along, like really. So now they're like, it's really fun. To
I think
see.
they push each other, and like you said,
they do a lot.
It's cool to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too, man. I love you. I wish we had more coffee to drink at 10 p.m.
It'll happen. Whenever next time you're with Arch Enemy, you'll come to my place and we have a real coffee with OLA.
That would be great.
I'll invite you to the real Swedish coffee.
Right now it's water.
It's kind of like water and half microwave Starbucks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Something like that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And please, Mr. Sepultura drummer, contact us. It's important. It's a matter of life and death. And it's going to happen pretty soon, I guess.
Yeah,
it has to. Otherwise, you missed a shot, basically. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you. That went well.